sometimes you can get those technical difficulties. I got my iPad and everything set up, and basically, Mr. Porter, I've been following you on Facebook for years, and I'm always seeing you post it consistently about particularly investing in silver and sometimes gold, right? And that you're always expressing that gold and silver is real money, and that we should invest in it, and it really just took me reading some things over the weekend to come to the realization of that. So I wanted to know, because in my mind I was thinking, it's some type of conspiracy theory. I teach in the public school system, so I have knowledge of what's not being taught, firsthand knowledge, and what's being taught and what's not being taught. And so when you're not taught this in school, when you're not given the historical background of the economy and money and how things work, it's hard, or it's a challenge to really grasp that in your mind. And so as we are approaching this recession, I don't know if people are aware, we already had 9,000 retail stores closed. The big trucking business, one of the largest trucking business in the United States, just filed bankruptcy. So you have over 4,000 truckers who just found out that their job is gone, or through their company, and they're lost. And so I know that our government is trying to prolong this recession until the presidential race in November 2020. But the economy always resets itself on average every 10 years. So we are at the point where we're really long overdue. And so I just want you to come in and talk, and to give your knowledge about gold and silver in particular, and how you believe that it will help some people in the next coming month or year, or whenever this recession comes full circle.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, Coach. And I've been following you for a long time too. You done labeled yourself as the queen of credit, so I've been following you for quite a bit of time.
Well,
too.
No, I didn't label myself as that. Mr. Cortez Springer really branded me.
Oh, okay.
And gave me that name, and so I the financial mentor.
Right.
Yeah, and I just took it and ran with it. So
yeah, you running with it, and you're doing a great job.
Thank
you're doing
you.
a great job of educating people, because and again, that type of education we're not gonna get in the school system. So we need people out here, teaching people something different than what we learn in school.
Right.
So as far as precious metals, and again, I appreciate you allowing me to come on your live and share a little bit of my knowledge. I've been studying precious metals since 2008. We had the big crisis in 2008, and that kind of began my journey of, there got to be something that we can do different, because if this happens again, it's going to be worse than the first time, because, we're definitely a lot more in debt than we were back in 2008, so it's going to be a lot harder this time. So I began to study not just precious metals, but I began to study about the dollar itself, and trying to get through the root of how we got to where we are today. And in my studies, if you think about the dollar, when the dollar first came on the scene, it was never supposed to be money. It was supposed to represent money.
Okay.
So if you go back in the I think it was 1950s, somewhere along the lines where the money or the currency used to say silver certificate across the top, or gold certificate.
Correct.
So what you were supposed to be able to do was take your silver certificate or your gold certificate, take it to the bank, and exchange that gold or silver certificate for whatever the value was in gold or silver. Mm-hmm. That was the original purpose behind paper currency. People couldn't walk around with a bunch of gold and silver in their pockets; it would come too heavy for you to carry it. Right. So that was the whole purpose behind us having a paper currency. Just to do transact business, and when your business was done, then you go to the bank, and whatever you had left, you exchange that for your precious metals. That was the original intent behind it.
Okay.
And of course, all the wars came, and now they got to have a way of funding all these wars, and so they figured out a way to manipulate the system to where they can print all this currency out of control. But little did we know the people that's been hurt behind it is the poor and the middle class, because the more you print of this stuff, the less value it has. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this before. Now the currency has lost over 95% of its purchasing power, and purchasing power is what we need. We work hard for these dollars, and I need my dollars to be able to stretch as far as it can. But when it's losing value like that, every year you need more and more of it. So there has to be some way of protecting the people against what the government is doing. And I, personally, I don't, and I know I'm not the only one that thinks this way. I just don't think they're going to get themselves together. They're just digging a deeper hole for it. So we have to take matters into our own hands. So what precious metal does, and of course you talked about this before, the more you print this stuff, the more inflation is going to be out there. Right. And we have to try to protect ourselves against inflation. And the way that I found to protect yourself against inflation is to get you some precious metals, because precious metals always hold its value. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about, the different characteristics of money, one of the characteristics money has to have, it has to maintain a store of value. Mm-hmm. And since President Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, that dollar does not maintain a store of value. It's lost value. So really, you can't consider fiat currency to be money because it doesn't maintain a store of value. It's just a debt-based currency that we use to pay all our debt, public and private. That's what it's used for. So when you talk about establishing wealth and trying to prepare yourself for the future, the dollar was never the instrument that was designed by God to be used to create wealth for families. So we gotta we've been programmed to believe a certain way, and our paradigms have been shaped, by, the school system, and we just followed along, like sheep led to a slaughter. We kind of follow along the system, and it's just hurting people. The rich are fine. They got a bunch of currency, but the poor and middle class don't, and they're the ones being hurt behind this whole deal.
Okay, so I think where I was lost or confused was for the people that's joining in, I'll give them an overview of the history lesson, because there are a lot of people who are advocating to purchase silver and gold as insurance, but not as an investment. So if people don't know the history behind it, it started with the Great Depression. During the Great Depression in the 30s, right, it was made illegal for people to even possess gold. Right. Gold was the transaction and the exchange for goods and services. The government made it illegal for people to possess this gold at that time, because they printed the money, the paper that they printed, as you stated, it had gold certificates, meaning that if they made an exchange in the marketplace with someone, that person could go to the bank and redeem the physical gold.
Right.
No one knows to this day what happens to those citizens' gold at that time. But it was confiscated by the government. They passed a law that either you have 10 years in prison or $10,000 fine if you are, if they caught you in possession of gold.
Right.
So in 1971, President Nixon, Richard Nixon, he took the dollar, the backing of the printed money of the gold certificate. He took it off the gold standard, right? So no longer would this dollar be backed by physical gold in banks?
Right.
So this is history. But it was backed by another commodity that people don't know about, in a sense, and that's called the petrodollar, which is the oil from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So now my question was, and it wasn't just you, it was a close friend guy of mine, and he was explaining to me, and my thing to him or to you all were, before I came into an understanding, okay, I get that. Now we're printing money out in the masses. It's just like if you were to have a Rolls Royce, they only make so many in production to uphold the value of it. It's not like having Hyundais or Fords or Toyotas that they make mass production. So you lose value of anything that is printed out in mass production. But with gold not backing the printed dollar now, if anyone has any printed in a dollar in their possession, you can clearly see that it states that this is a note for legal tender of debt.
Right.
So then my question was, what's the significance of gold if it's no longer on the gold standard? If we can't go to the gas station or grocery stores and use gold anymore, that's been done away with.
Right.
Then why would I now in 2019 purchase silver or gold?
Okay. So right now, today, like you said, of course, we can't go and exchange, our dollars for any silver or gold. So what we have to do now, the country is over $23 trillion in debt. It'll never be paid off. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they can pay the interest to that debt off. We're in debt. We're in debt to a lot of countries, and one of the big countries that we're indebted to is China. And China, Russia, Japan, all of these guys are stripping all of their debt back to this country because they no longer are trusting the dollar because it's causing their countries to go down. We got to remember that the dollar is what's the world reserve currency. Right now it still is, but of course that's shaky right now too. In that sense, so what can I do with gold and silver now? So again, we talked about inflation and how bad inflation has become. So prices
can you explain inflation to someone who may have that's listening live and they never heard of the word inflation?
Yes, ma'am. So inflation is, a lot of people explain inflation as the price of goods and services going up. That's really just a result of inflation. Inflation really is the value of your currency going down, and because of the value of your currency is going down, now you need more of those dollars to purchase the stuff that you normally purchase every day. So 5 years ago, you went to the grocery store with $100. 5 years ago, of course, the $100 would cost you a lot more than that $100 can buy you today. So I can go to the gas station with $1, and I can't even get a gallon of gas with $1 today, but I can get more than a gallon of gas with that $1 Silver Eagle. Now, if you look at a $1 Silver Eagle and you look at a $1 paper dollar, they both have the same value when it's spent as currency.
Right.
But here's where the education comes in. That $1 Silver Eagle, which is 99.9% pure silver, if you got the right knowledge, you can take that $1 Silver Eagle down to your local coin shop, and that coin dealer is going to give you spot price and maybe a little bit above spot price for that $1 Silver Eagle. So right now, let's say the spot price is $17. I can get 17 of those $1 bills for that $1 Silver Eagle because I understand now that I'm getting the silver content that's inside of that Silver Eagle versus just going to the store and spending that Silver Eagle as a $1 bill. That's where the knowledge comes in at. So when you talk about the country being in debt, when you talk about inflation and what can you do to protect yourself against inflation? Well, the one thing that has maintained its value is precious metals. And the reason I say that is if you go back to 1965, in 1965, a $1 silver eagle was the same as a $1 bill.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1965, you could have bought a brand new Mustang for $2,500, or you could have bought it for 2,500 silver coins, because they both had the same value.
Right.
If you fast forward to today, you're not gonna buy a brand new Mustang for $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
But those 2,500 ounces of silver, even today at $17 an ounce, you're talking about over $40-something thousand. You probably be able to buy 2 brand new cars with that 2,500 ounces of silver today, versus that $2,500 bill. So that's inflation. That's how you hedge yourself against inflation. So why are we stacking it? We're stacking it now to prepare ourselves, because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, if we go into hyperinflation, the poor and middle class will be wiped out.
Okay, and hyperinflation is?
And hyperinflation is when the cost of goods and services go up dramatically. I mean, the prices increase on a daily basis. The prices are increasing. That's what's happening in Venezuela right now.
Mm-hmm.
So in Venezuela, now back in 2012, when Venezuela's crisis started, Venezuelans could have got an ounce of silver for 215 Bolivar, which is their local currency, back in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Today, because they've had a crisis and they printed their currency out of control, now it takes 3.4 million Bolivar to get 1 ounce of silver. And they're in hyperinflation right now. So a gallon of milk is costing 99,000 Bolivar. You know what the average monthly income is over in Venezuela right now? It's 40,000 Bolivar a month.
Mm-hmm.
So a family can't even afford a gallon of milk with the money that they're making right now because of hyperinflation in Venezuela. And then a lot of people tend to think that, you know, it can't happen to us. Well, guess what? Every major fiat currency in the history of the world has failed. Every last one of them. Wow. And the only reason why the dollar hasn't failed yet is because it's a world currency. It's been accepted around the world. It's just a matter of time. If we continue to do the same thing that other countries are doing, it's going to happen to us too.
Right.
Yeah, so, you have to put yourself in position to, you know, what if it does happen? What are you going to do if you wake up tomorrow and that currency in your pocket don't have no value? You can't do nothing with it. You can't even go to the bank and take anything out the ATM machine. Now, we're hoping none of that happens, but at the same time, I'm not going to just sit back and not do nothing for me and my family. I got to make sure that I'm being proactive versus being reactive. Now, we hope it don't happen. So if it don't happen, you're not losing anything, because gold and silver will always maintain a store value. But if it does happen, man, you're liable to lose everything. So that's where I am with it as it relates to the precious metals.
Okay, and so I understand that. But my question was always, if gold is no longer backing the dollar, then how are they still correlated? How are they still connected?
They're not. Not right now. The dollar bill has nothing to do with gold or silver right now. So now, if your central banks is stacking gold and silver like it's going out of style. Because the banks understand what's getting ready to go on, because they're the ones getting ready to cause all this stuff to happen.
Right.
So they're protecting their families, but they're still pumping us with these fiat currency.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm showing a picture now on my Facebook and my YouTube of I teach this to youth of what the bill used to look like.
Right.
And it shows like a $20 bill. And it has the Federal Reserve, and at the bottom it says in gold coin. So you know that you could submit this money to someone, and that you can get physical possession of the gold that was stored in banks. That was its first purpose. And so no one could really answer that question for me. I'm recently divorced, so I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, when something is separated and they're no longer intertwined, then how does the purchasing power of now printed money, it's still supposed to be backed by another commodity, which is oil, and that's why they start calling the dollar petrodollar.
Right.
So gold has.
But it doesn't benefit us. It benefits the government, but it doesn't benefit everyday citizens. We don't get the benefit from that.
Right, but every time, and I want people to understand, I want them to get a solid foundation like I had to. Every time the dollar lowers or depreciates in value, gold in particular, value or the cost to purchase gold increases. So they are still intertwined and interrelated. I found out this because of the local exchange currency, as you said, that gold is still accepted universally as money. So if one day, now this could happen, right? I'm not gonna get too much into history and all of that because we are live,
Right.
but we do know Hussein in Saudi Arabia and all that. You know why the United States say they went to war with him and that country, but I want people to understand that Saudi Arabia is connected with the United States heavily in the oil transaction.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
I know you're
if
talking to a retired soldier, so it definitely had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction.
right,
It's like that led us to believe.
right, and he and that country was contemplating removing themselves as far as that oil exchange between the United States.
Right.
That chess move would immediately crash our dollar
Right.
because the value of our dollar was now backed by their oil exchange and connection we have with them that makes other foreign countries accept our dollar as currency nationwide.
So why you think we messing with China right now, Coach? Because China threatening to do some of the same stuff.
Some of the same, right. So now China is talking with Japan, Asia, and they are looking to combine sources and say, hey, their dollar is not backed by anything, and they are how many trillions of dollars in debt?
Exactly.
So why should we continue to connect with them when they are in debt and their dollar, they have no commodities. They don't have the gold or the oil now, right? And so if China decides that they do not want to buy any of the United States debt, and what I mean by debt is
these dollars.
The dollar that you have in your pockets or in your checking account, it tells you that this note is a legal tender for all debts on there. What that note now is not backed by anything is Saudi Arabia moved their oil and their commodity backing it, but nothing but debt.
Right.
And so they said China is purchasing more gold now than ever because if China and Saudi Arabia removes away America at this point, see, this is what people don't understand. China, first of all, America is more in debt to China than what we owe them. So we're talking about, we should have tariffs, we should tax China. We are more in debt to China than China is us.
That's right.
And the farmers of America right now, their soybeans prices, because that's the exchange, the importing, the exporting. China exports soybeans to us, dairy, which affects milk, dairy products, wheat, other agricultural things. So if China says, okay, we're going to stop exporting this to you all, not only the Apple products, the toys, right? Now America does not have those products, or we don't have that exchange anymore where our farmers are filing bankruptcy with China. We don't have those products anymore to make billions off of. Now we talk about China is a communist country and they, slave drive their citizens and they get low salary. But the United States have made billions off of that.
Yeah.
And now we don't have their products or exchange of services in the United States, right? And now our farmers, our grocery stores, our citizens are suffering because of the exchange. Now we have businesses that's going out of business. Toys R Us that was selling toys, mom and pop stores that was selling toys are going out of business.
Right. What you just said, and that's why I've been saying for a long time. I can't. I can see us paying $200 for a gallon of milk.
Right.
Because of some of the stuff that's happening right now. I can see that happening. I can see that coming our way because of the thing that's going on. The stuff you just mentioned. I can see us paying $200 for a gallon of milk.
Right.
Man, who would be able to afford that?
Exactly. Because now we have to pay that much for a gallon of milk or gas because of Saudi Arabia and the oil has changed. Now we can't afford to. We will have more dollars in the market than we will the product.
Right.
And now our dollars become worthless because we can't have enough of it to purchase the products with.
Right. So I've done a presentation. I don't know if you've seen my presentation, but I've done a presentation, and inside my presentation, it shows a woman. This was happening in Weimar, Germany, when the German mark just crashed, and it showed this lady in a picture. She had a whole bunch. It looked like her life savings on the floor, and she was stuffing them inside her furnace.
Right.
Those Dutch marks couldn't even buy her firewood to keep her house warm. So she had to do the next best thing, was start stuffing those Dutch marks inside the furnace just to keep her house warm, because that's the only thing it was good for. They couldn't use it for anything. Zimbabwe got $100 trillion bill. They can't buy nothing with it.
Wow, exactly.
Yeah, so this is the type of stuff that, man, you hope that this wouldn't come our way, but you know the definition of insanity. When you continue to do the same thing over and over again, and you're expecting different results, it's not going to happen. And we're doing the same thing these other countries are doing. So here's the bottom line to this whole thing. There has to be a monetary reset, and this has happened throughout history. When gold was $35 an ounce, and in 7 to 10 years, within that time frame, it went from $35 an ounce all the way up to $800 an ounce. And what happened was the gold had to do the accounting for all the paper currency that was in circulation. So it's like a sponge in a puddle of water. The sponge represents the precious metals. The puddle of water represents the currency. So as you start to soak up that currency, of course the sponge is going to get larger and larger until all the water is gone.
Right.
That's what happens during a monetary reset. So if we have a monetary reset right now, gold and silver has to be at a certain price to kind of balance everything out. That's what a monetary reset is. And that's why I encourage people to start stacking, precious metals. Now, gold, of course, people can't afford an ounce of gold. It's $1,400, $1,500 an ounce.
Right.
So that's why I call silver the poor man's gold, because everybody can afford an ounce of silver. Even if you can just do one a month, you're doing better than a whole lot of people who don't have the right knowledge to prepare yourself for what's coming. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to prepare ourselves. It's like the 10 virgins, 5 foolish and 5 wise. The 5 had the oil in their lamps, and the other 5 didn't. And then when it came time for them to need to use that oil, the 5 foolish virgins didn't have nothing.
Right.
And that's what we are today, in our time today. If you apply that to where we are today, people got to start preparing themselves for the inevitable. We don't know what's going to happen, but at the same time, I'm going to stack as if something's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's where we are with it.
And I told you, I'm in the public school system. We are supposed to build our philosophy of Socrates and Aristotle. And when I read this quote, and I have it in the background on live Aristotle. Did I say Aristotle? I don't know. But I read this quote and then I have this on my board as well for the people to see, that China is posed to overtake the United States as the world top economy as early as next year. China is already stacking billions and billions of dollars of gold, more than they ever have in any historical time frame. It was on Twitter today that the central banks in the United States have purchased, or also because they know that if they have to go to war with China or even Saudi Arabia over the oil, they're going to have real currency. And this is another reason why the dollar was accepted as currency worldwide as well, is because at that time the United States owned 75% of the gold.
Right.
And now China is able to attain that. They made connections with Africa to position themselves for that. And so this quote by Aristotle says, money must be durable, divisible, consistent, and convenient, and possess value in itself.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm like, okay, if the school systems are built on Aristotle and Socrates and education and what they believe a sound mind and a sound body is from Socrates, why isn't this definition of money and with Aristotle taught in schools? Why aren't they taught about the gold standard? Why aren't they taught about what really happened in the Great Depression? Why don't kids know in the public schools that the U.S. government, confiscated all the citizen gold and made it illegal?
Right.
Because they don't want, and I would hear people, and Robert Kiyosaki say all the time that gold is God's money. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's real good and spiritual, but if I can't take gold and spend it at a gas station today, that's fine. I understand the spiritual part, but now I understand that if China or Saudi Arabia backs away and we are no longer in importing, exporting, and it can happen as soon as next year. I think they're only holding off the big recession until the presidential election. I really believe that's why they having this impeachment hearing.
2020 is going to be a big year. 2020 is going to be a big year.
Right. And so I'm going to ask you this, and I'll let you go. When I began to read the second book, the first book I recommend people to, and you have to read it all the way through if you still don't grasp it, How the Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Peter Scuff. Yes, Skiff, I think. I'm sorry. But the other book I read is, and I purchased this book. It's an old book. It was on my shelf. In 2015, The 5 Lessons a Millionaire Taught Me. And so it's in this book that it discussed the difference in purchasing, let's say silver. Silver can be for the middle class, right? Silver coins, silver rounds, and silver bullions.
Right.
So for people that say, okay, I can believe our dollar can be worthless, especially if China and Saudi Arabia move back, and then for a temporary replacement, we will be able to use, gold and silver during that time. And you can cash gold and silver in for printed money, for the printed dollar.
Yeah.
You can cash that in.
Yeah, every city has a local coin dealer.
Right, a local coin dealer.
Yeah, will exchange your precious metals for currency.
For the dollar. But so for the people that say, okay, yeah, I don't have the $1,400 or $1,500 to purchase gold by the ounce. However, I can, instead of having my money sitting in a savings account,
right,
and where it takes $5 now to purchase a gallon of milk because prices are increasing, or at some point it won't be accepted anyway. If China and Saudi Arabia, we go to, then I can save $20 an ounce to purchase gold. Then how do you give them beginning steps of what type of silver, to purchase?
Well, you have, and there is different types of silver. Well, actually, you have coins and you have rounds. So when you're dealing with coins normally have is produced by the local government, minted by that government, that country's government, and it has a monetary value fixed to it. For instance, we talked about the American Silver Eagle. If you had an American Silver Eagle in your hand, on the back of it, you'll see it says $1 on it. Yeah, so coins normally is again comes from the local government mint. That's what a coin is, but a round comes from a private mint. A round don't have no just a silver round, just pure silver. So that's the difference between the two. Now, I will tell you, in the United States, precious metals is not taxed until you sell it for capital gains. If you sell it, let's say you bought your silver, and your silver you bought it at $16 an ounce, and then it went up to $20, and you went and sold it. Well, whatever your gain was on that silver, yeah, that's it. Whatever your gain was on that silver, now you have to pay taxes because you had a capital gain on that silver. But as long as you maintain it and don't sell it, you don't pay tax on it.
Okay, and that's for the rounds or the coins?
That's for the coins or the rounds. As long as you don't sell them, you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Okay, but I will tell you this. A coin, like you said, is the American Silver Eagle. It does have what we call a face value. It'll let you know it's $1.
Right.
But if we enter into a recession, by the hour, they're going to be announcing by the ounce what silver and gold is worth. Right?
If you go to, I've said this on my, you probably seen me talk about this site a lot, the USDebtClock.org. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they just started showing what they believe the price of gold and silver should be right now today if we was to have a monetary reset.
Okay, on the US Debt Clock?
Yep, if you go to the USDebtClock.org, towards the bottom right, you're going to see a price for silver and you're going to see a price for gold.
Okay.
And right now, the last time I checked, that price for silver was over $1,000 an ounce.
For silver?
And the price for gold was like $6,000 to $7,000 an ounce.
For silver?
So, yes, ma'am. So the government is even preparing for what's getting ready to take place. And here's the great thing, Coach. The information is not being hidden from us. The information is out there.
Wait. You need to repeat that for me.
Okay.
You said silver is priced at how much an ounce?
Silver is priced at over $1,000 an ounce right now on the USDebtClock.org.
But you can purchase it for $16.
But right now you can get it for $17 an ounce.
I didn't know that.
Because, so in other words, they're preparing for this crash. They're preparing for it. They're even preparing themselves for the crash.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so heavy on promoting that people need to start preparing themselves for what's getting ready to take place. Man, look, again, silver is the poor man's gold. Get out there. Right now, the ratio, gold to silver ratio is like 85 to 1. In other words, it takes you, by the time you was able to get an ounce of gold, you could have had 85 ounces of silver.
Right.
So silver right now is a smoking deal right now. Silver should be, if you're trying to get an asset that has no risk involved in it, silver is a perfect deal right now for anybody.
Wow. Okay, well, let me say this for my research, and I'll let you go because we've been on for 30 minutes. I do know that coins during recession, it'll be hard to dictate because they have, this is $1 coin. People are going to listen to the prices by the ounces for exchange. So if people purchase rounds, which I'm holding one on my Facebook, if they purchase rounds have the ounces on there, which is in the recession is what you'll need because people know by the price by the ounces.
Yeah. I would recommend rounds anyway.
Right. Rounds also are 0.999 of fine silver. So they have intrinsic value where the coins have just the face value.
Right.
So even with these rounds.
Another thing you should know too, Coach, and what your listeners should know, is there's a difference between an ounce and a troy ounce. An ounce has 28. An ounce has 28 point. I think it's 28.10 or 28.20 grams of silver in it. And then ounces. I'm sorry. And then a troy ounce has 31.10 ounces of silver in it. So there's a difference in the two.
Okay, how much does an ounce have again?
The ounce has, I think it's 28.20. I might be a little off on the back number, but it's 28 point. I think it's 28.20 on the ounce. But if your coin says a troy ounce has 31.10 ounces in it.
Okay.
So it gives you a little bit more if you got a Troy ounce of silver.
Okay, I have a Troy ounce in my possession, so that's good.
Oh yeah, so that's 31.10 ounces.
And
grams.
And what people understand that silver is industrial metal.
Oh, of course.
And so what that means, right? We're moving to more electronic cars.
Oh yeah. Silver's gonna be something that's gonna be needed. Gold is more hoarded. You don't use a whole lot of gold.
I'll say this: gold is more for the wealthy. Silver is more for the middle class. Now, this may not be for you if you don't even have the money to save in the bank. But if you have money to save before this dollar crashes, and you want to convert it into, and a lot of people may say, well, Mr. Porter, what if the Federal Reserve just changed to a digital currency like a Bitcoin and they create their own digital currency? Then will silver and gold still have a place?
Oh yeah, I personally believe silver and gold will always have a place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, silver and gold is gonna always be worth something, And my thing is, I understand the digital thing, and to each his own. My motto has always been, Coach, since I started stacking in 2008, that it's just me personally. I don't knock anybody who does Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Man, more power to you. Anything other than $1, hey, more power to you. But my motto has always been, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I just personally, I just can't trust no computer. Right. I gotta have something in my hands.
And even Bitcoin now is called Bitcoin Gold. So even if it is digital,
right,
it still has to be backed by something of value.
It has to be backed by something, exactly.
Right. In order for it to be accepted as currency. Now, YouTube asks, which is better deal, coins or rounds in a recession? I would prefer rounds. Let me tell you this.
I believe rounds too, because rounds don't have no face value on it. It's just pure silver.
It's pure silver, and there are particular rounds that you can purchase that precious metal dealers do not have to report to the IRS, meaning that it's IRA approved, and the taxes, may or may not have to be applied because they do not have to report to the IRS. Your coins would have to be reported to the IRS because coins are still printed by the American government. Well, not printed, I'm thinking about dollar. It's still produced by the U.S. government. So if you have coins in your possession for exchange, that is still produced by the government, and it still has to be reported as exchange of currency, and you'll be taxed. Now, the type of rounds that are not taxed, if I remember correctly,
I got a website, Coach, that I can later on, I'll post it in here for your viewers. They can go to the website.
Because right now I'm just going out memory, but I know the I can't think. I'll be going by memory, and I don't want to say it. I think the Maple Leaf or something, but I know there are some of them. And the Britannica is a coin that you can purchase that's free of even capital gains tax. Right. So even if you had this in your possession and the dollar, crashed, or maybe it just temporarily takes a collapse and it comes back. Well, whenever you exchange this with a precious metal dealer, you can get more value, even if the dollar just takes a temporary collapse, and you're not losing anything of substance of value if you want to use it for that purposes.
Right.
And then
I personally believe that when it happens, you're gonna be able to get property dirt cheap. You're gonna see people selling property 50 to 70% off.
Right.
Because of the fact that this thing done crashed. And, if you study the life cycle of money, currently right now we're in the 6th step of this life cycle. Mm-hmm. And the 6th step of the life cycle of money is when people start losing confidence in the currency. And then what happens? We always revert back to free market money. Free market money for over 5,000 years has always been gold and silver.
Right.
Yeah. So, you're going to be able to buy a property dirt cheap. Now, I believe that, your local business in whatever city or state you in, they would gladly accept your gold and silver, especially if the currency crashes.
Exactly. They sure will. And like right now, I'm holding a bullion. Now, bullion you will be taxed, but it's Scottsdale silver. It's fine silver, and it's 10 troy ounce. And it has on it, "In God We Trust," just like they put on that dollar.
Right.
Right. But this is just troy ounce. It's 10 troy ounces. Just, and I wasn't even knowledgeable about the difference of it. So you definitely want to look at something that's IRA approved, because that can save you. You don't want to invest in things and then when you exchange it, you're gonna get taxed 28% if you can help it. Right. And so we'll have the information in the rounds. Is anything else you would like to say? I thank you for your knowledge and thank you for your time.
Oh no, I appreciate it, Coach. I've been waiting for to have this conversation.
I understand, but I was just in the mindset, hey, if gold is gone, it's gone.
I got you.
What's the point? I just don't want to have this in my possession if I can't use it, and I tell you, I don't know if this happened, but if we ever experience deflation, right? There's not where prices decrease in some type of way, our dollar becomes more valuable and we gain more purchasing power, and gold takes a dip. If we experience that, I'm telling you, I'm stacking up on gold. But right now, to me, if gold is over $1,100 an ounce, then it's too expensive to purchase. So, yeah.
Yeah, silver's the best route. Silver's the best route.
Right, so silver is the best route. And did you know in 2018, after the housing crash in 2008, and I think 2011, the price of gold was $1,800 an ounce. Because we had experienced just that much inflation. So if you had purchased gold before then,
2011, silver was at 50. I think it was $56 an ounce.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you had purchased maybe an ounce of gold for less than $1,800 before 2008, and then once the economy boosted back up again, you can exchange that gold in, and the dollar purchasing power, and you can get $1,800 back.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So hey, that's it, Mr. Porter. Again, I thank you. It took me all weekend to dive into these books.
Right.
Because it wasn't connecting with me. But now when I see that China or Saudi Arabia can make a chess move, because people don't understand, this bubble is bigger than 2008. It just doesn't involve people that had bad mortgages financed on the balloon payment. Now
they never fixed anything from 2008.
Right. They never fixed anything. Actually made it worse because in 2008, the Obama administration took student loans, for example, away from private banks and lenders and Sallie Mae, right? They used to service the student loans, and the Obama administration changed and said, no, the U.S. government right now is going to be the service of student loans. So anyone that gets student loans out now, that's why, and this is where my credit teaching comes in, is going to have the U.S. Department of Ed or Fed loans. There's no more Navy and no more Sallie Mae, which means that you can't file it in bankruptcy, right? You could at least file private student loans through private banks like Wells Fargo or something in bankruptcy and help get rid of and eradicate it. Now it's all through federal government. So if you are abusing those student loans, hey, you owe the government, honey, or sir.
That's
and
right.
There's no scapegoat from that.
Yeah. I just seen an article here recently that Congress is talking about coming out to people's 401k. So y'all better watch out.
And pensions.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're so broke, United States, we can't. We're paying Social Security and Medicare out of our paychecks and taxes, and we don't even know if it's going to be around long.
That's right. Well, we're the ones responsible for paying the debt.
Right.
They're the ones getting in debt, but we're the ones responsible for paying it.
Right. So now you have automobile that's a part of this, housing, because all they did was I thought they took away adjustable rate loans, right, in 2008. You know what they did, Mr. Porter? And my friend got, informed me of this. I wasn't aware that now they call them non-prime loans. They just renamed it.
They renamed it.
Yeah, from subprime to non-prime.
Right.
And that's for people with bad credit, struggling credit, and they gonna do it again. So when we go into a recession, they're always gonna raise interest rates. I tell people, if you have anything right now that's financed under adjustable rate mortgage, you better get your credit fixed and get out of that and get into a fixed interest rate. Why the feds have the federal banks have the interest rate low? Because when recession hits full throttle, interest rate rise because they printed too much money, so now they don't want to loan it to you anymore.
Coach, if we go negative, if the interest rates go negative, that means for you to put your money in the bank, you owe the bank for keeping your money in the bank now. If we go negative in the interest rate,
right,
that's crazy.
You're gonna have to pay the banks to store your money.
Exactly.
So you better flip it.
I know that's right.
You better flip it.
Don't hold it in the bank. The bank is making money off of you. Don't keep if you're doing any type of saving, please. The worst place you can save your money is inside the bank.
And banks are even closing and going bankruptcy. That's what happened during the Great Depression.
It won't be no bailout this time. The next time it's going to be a bail-in. They're going to bail themselves out with your money.
With your money, right. The people went back to the banks to get their gold. Banks were closed. Banks was it was a bank rush. And President Nixon, all the stuff you don't learn in school, at the time, closed all the banks and call it you all need to go on YouTube and research this. And call it a bank holiday for a week.
Yep.
Just so they can figure out a plan to not have people panic about retrieving their money, because the United States went bankrupt in 1934. A lot of people don't know that. And that's when this private meeting, and people don't even know that the federal is not federal, it's not U.S. government.
That's right.
It's right. A rich and wealthy J.P. Morgans met together, and because the Henry Fords and the Carnegies at that time had all the gold in America, they met with the government and told them, like, okay, this is what you all can do. And see, people in the 30s knew what central banks was. They knew that central banks would have a rich and a poor, nowhere in between. They knew what the implementation of central banks would do. So these rich elite men met and made this agreement with the government to implement the Federal Reserve, and they put the name Federal Reserve Banks, and they put on there, "In God We Trust," so people can have that spiritual and godly connection and trust the dollar. And that's where you get, and also they wanted it because silver and gold could not be taxed, but that paper dollar could.
Yeah, that's right.
So they wanted a way to tax your labor, to tax your dollar. Now when you go to work, we can get 30%. You are human resources. That's why your job is called HR and human resources, because you are the human resources.
That's right.
From the government, and they give you 70 cents of every dollar that you go and labor for and implement your physical labor, your intellectual labor into the workforce, and then they tax you 30% on a dollar for that.
Yeah.
But it was no taxation system for silver and gold. But it's a taxation system for that printed money, because they made it.
They made it. That's right.
And so that's why Robert Kiyosaki says all the time.
The federal income tax came out the same year that the Federal Reserve did.
Right. And that's what he means by the rich don't work for money and the rich don't save money. They don't save this paper stuff. The rich people work for assets and commodities.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right.
And this is powerful, Coach. I really enjoyed this.
I did. I thank you so much. Hey, thank you, YouTube. Facebook, Mr. Port, I'll let you go. I was supposed to be going somewhere, but I have ran over time. But I get passionate about this, so like.
All right, Coach. I appreciate you.
You have a great evening. Thank you.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, so any questions? I'm logging off. I think I missed my appointment. Where you going?